Well, I can't play that and sing it at the same time. I'm not Jimi Hendrix. That song is called Inagada da Vida, baby. And it's kind of Inagada instead of in a garden of Eden. Inagada da Vida, baby. Not in the Garden of Eden. Yeah. So, what's the difference between a Diddy and a Daddy? A Diddy and a Daddy. They both come out the same day. Yeah. We've got Donald Trump is the Daddy. We've got this other bloke is the Diddy of the world and the Daddy of the world. Well, in the Hebrew it would be the same word, wouldn't it? It's like there's no vowel, so the I is gone. So it's da 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 is a da da da. That's how they wrote it. They used to say it da di da. They put the vowels in ad lib, if you like. It's the same meaning. So Didi is like the we, the conspiracy of the we, and Daddy, it's like the conspiracy of the one. The da is my conspiracy. Diddy is like our conspiracy. Yeah, that's really what it means. Like ma and mo, and me. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. The me, am I. Now, Daddy, Diddy, Daddy, it's a kind of a corrupting form of father. And Don, the Don, is the name of the mafia boss, Don. He's also a father. And I also have a kind of name like this when I produce some of my music records. My name was Lightning Papa Abe Ram. Papa Abe Ram. And it was kind of like I wouldn't say a joke, it's not a joke, it's kind of adding an amusing touch to something that's a bit too serious for what it was. So our place is for the father, and I am a father. A father is an abbot. That's what Abba means father. And Papa means father. Dada means like baby father, I suppose. So Dada is what a baby says, isn't it? Yeah. So Daddy is the one in charge of Baba. I didn't know the diagram yesterday. How do we get out of the problem that we're in at the moment? I don't know if you can see that. I'm going to put it down and go over it in detail. And we'll do it now. Right, now you'll see we've got the natural order is everything outside of the lines here. And so this is the natural order. here's the natural order here. Okay, so you'll see the natural order is really socialism. Socialism is the natural order, and it's collective ownership of the land and the productive capacity of the people, the mines and all that sort of stuff. It's collective ownership of all that. And what happens when natural order devolves, it's not evolution, it's going down, it's going out of a condition of the Garden of Eden, if you like, into a greed cult. And you'll see that it happens by means of some form of revolution, okay? You know, there's one here, there's another one here, I haven't written it in there, to come through a smaller revolution here. Okay, so you've got two states. You've got the capitalism, which is organization of type 1, okay, where you've got like one person, the daddy at the top, right? And then you've got, sorry, so that's cabal owned. It's owned by a cabal, not by the people living in the society. It's cabal owned, and the people become slaves of the cabal, and those the cabal approves of. Now, a revolution can shift capitalism into communism. Communism is another form of organization. It's not as bad as cabal owned. It's still owned. It's state owned. The state is the cabal, really. And there may be ways to enter the state, the government that owns it, but there's no escape from this one. No escape. Okay. It has to have a small revolution into this, and you'll see that all of the communist countries have evolved into some form of state-owned this. Okay, it's somehow connected together. It ends up with this and this, if you like. And this is where one can escape from. Okay, this is the only escape from slavery is here. There's no escape here. Here you're forced to go to work. If you don't work, the police come and arrest you. In this one, you can choose to just not have anything to do with the cabal-owned organization, okay? If one recognizes that that organization is criminal, then one can say, I don't accept, I'm not going to be involved with any criminal enterprise, and you can escape from it like that, okay? And then you end up in freedom. Now, in freedom, that's where you can become a couple, and a couple can form into a group, and they have to be self-sufficient. Okay, that's the idea. Individualism, self-sufficiency. Individualism doesn't mean just the individual. It means an individual person, the individual couple when they become a couple, the individual group when they become a group. And all of the groups together form the nation. Okay, so then you have a nation state, and now you have your sovereignty back. But there's no sovereignty for the people in any of this area here. Okay, I think that's quite clear. So I'm going to go back to my chair, finish my coffee. So you see, in this diagram, there's no need for revolution. There's no need to fight for that. You just simply walk out. And many people do this. Many people walk out of this slavery situation. And they say, I'm going to make jewellery. And that's what they do. They start off at home, they start making jewellery and start selling it on the street. And in this way they become artists and craftsmen. And you then end up with the arts and crafts movement. And this has been trying to reappear in the world continuously, yeah, as people find themselves doing this, those who will not be slaves, who wish to be free people. And so it's necessary to take this understanding to a higher level, because although we've done it, we haven't fully understood it, or understood that we took our sovereignty back in that moment, and that now we're not beholden to the criminal organisation. We don't need to have anything to do with Diddy or Daddy. Yeah? As far as we're concerned, they're all criminal organisations. And so all their laws do is seek to enslave us, okay? And we have to basically say, if your law is a stupid law, we're not going to obey it, okay? We're not going to be part of your organisation. And that was the teaching of Jesus to the early Christians. He said, just come out of it, forget about Rome, give to Rome what's Rome's. And give me what's mine, that's what he said, which meant the soul and the spirit of the people should come back to the Father, the true Father, not the Diddies or the Daddies, the Papa. Papa. Pa in Maori means the place of safety, of group gathering. We gather in the Pa, and we fight from the Pa. So the Pa is kind of like, this is the Pa. Yeah. And these people who make jewellery, I'll take that as an example, but there's all sorts of people who fix cars and do stuff like that. They'll take an old motorbike, they'll repair it, and they'll sell it and get some money, and then they'll collect the best ones they'll keep in their collection. Yeah. You'll see there are rich people who have done this, and they perform a very good service in the world. There's that fellow Jay Leno. Have you seen Jay Leno's garage? Jay Leno was a very, very rich person. A billionaire, probably. I don't know the exact extent of his wealth. He's got billions worth of cars, that's for sure. Yet some of those cars he paid hardly anything for. Years and years ago, he's been looking after these cars for decades, okay? And as such, he's providing a good service to the world. So to have wealth is not a crime as long as you use it for good purpose. And you'll see he's just dressed as an ordinary person. He wears denims, yeah, not brand new ones, they're well worn. And he puts his wealth into looking after his cars. And then the people, the masters who work on them for him, that's his group, if you like, and this group of people all share together in that collective work that they do, and are then enabled to eat, to live, to eat, to practice their creative endeavours. Okay. And what does he do? He does YouTube videos. He's a YouTuber. And believe you me, there's nobody who isn't a YouTuber, who hasn't got a YouTube channel, who is not part of this movement into freedom. Because that's the kind of proof, if you like, that they are part of this movement, that they are creating something. They're creating a visible presence in the world, as well as doing their art, okay? Which in my case is philosophy, yeah? And this is the highest art, the art that we're all learning throughout our life. And that ultimately, when we leave the world and find ourselves as part of the church, which is the natural order of poets, bards and druids, we find ourselves like that. We give up our wealth. We give up all our jewels and our work in the world. We might not finish it completely. It becomes a secondary thing to our work as a poet, bard or druid. I'll take 5. Now guys like Jay Leno, they haven't entered the church yet they will before they die. And they'll give everything they have to give everything away. Yeah? And it's necessary to give everything away so that the new generations coming forward can take over. Yeah. And so somebody else has to look after Jay Leno's big collection. Yeah. Because Jay Leno will need to be living in poverty, chastity and obedience when he leaves the world and enters the church. And to do it, he's got to give everything away. All his wealth, his money, everything. Everything he owns. Walk out of it. Okay, that's the test. Are you part of the group of people who is allowed in natural order to be the leaders of the world? Okay, you can't have wealth, all right? And you have to be living in poverty. Now, poverty doesn't mean that you eat a bowl of rice and that's it, and you drink water. No, poverty, I'm living in poverty. I drank my coffee, it's finished now. It's a hot day. Now I'm going to have an ice cream that looks like a Magnum, right? Now, if the Magnums are on special because their use-by date is coming up or whatever, and they'll throw them away, I'll buy the Magnums at the reduced price. If not, I'll buy the Co-op Magnum. Now, I think the Co-op Magnums, they're £2 something for 3, and the Magnums are maybe £4 for 3. So that's poverty. We don't need to get extravagant about it. We're not bothered about the difference between a Co-op Magnum and a Magnum. Now, if they were really bad, like they were bad for my body or something, I wouldn't eat them. But I tried it and it's okay. And so, in the summer time, for a short while I've still got a few teeth left in my mouth, I'm going to have an ice cream, all right? Now, this is my breakfast right now. And I'm going to have one of them, right? Now that's living in poverty, right? That's poverty. Doesn't mean that you can't have nothing, no luxury. This is my luxury. I don't go and eat out at a fancy restaurant. That's an extravagance, okay? So the wealthy can lead extravagant lives. They shouldn't be wasteful lives. Yet the church, the order of poets, bards and druids, needs to be living in poverty. Now, all good people need to be living in chastity. Chastity does not mean celibacy. Chastity means living chaste lives, not running around chasing women. Not the Diddy stuff, okay? And not the daddy stuff either. Come here, I'm your daddy. No. A chaste person doesn't grab the lady, yeah? Doesn't say, take my hand. That song in the Gala de Vida, take my hand. No, the lady would already have her arm on your arm if she was meant to be holding on to you. Chastity. Wait for the lady to come to you. What was it? Poverty, chastity, and obedience. Now, obedience sounds a bit worrisome. Put the handcuffs on, dear. No, none of that stuff. Obedience means obedience to God, only to God, only to nature. God is nature. To obey our natural instincts only. Not to do what Diddy tells us to do. Hey baby, come here and do this. No, 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 no. Not to do what somebody tells you to do. Not to do what daddy says to do. Or you immigrants will leave the country immediately. Not to do what daddy says. Not to do what Diddy says. To do what you feel like doing. What you feel like doing. What gives you joy. What makes your heart sing. That's what you're supposed to be doing. I notice I haven't taken a bite of this yet because it mustn't be ready. There's a certain point where the ice cream becomes able to be eaten. If you leave it too long, your cup runneth over too much and you get it all over yourself. But there's a point that comes that's perfect. I'll finish this and I'll then come back to the video. Now, I don't always have ice creams for breakfast. I don't often have ice creams. Yet I have to do the will of God. And the will of God says what you feel like doing. Yeah. And so I felt like eating an ice cream, and I felt like eating it on camera, and so now we see why. So the trouble with religions is they get the wrong end of things. They see me not eating ice cream, and they say, thou shalt not eat ice cream, ever. And so they make these stupid rules, and you can't have any rules. No rules, okay. No rules, okay. Not Elvis rules, okay. No rules, okay? Can't have any rules. Because you don't know what God will want you to do in the next moment. And normally I put that into there. First I put the milk in. I heat the milk in the microwave. I put the milk in. Whilst I'm heating it in the microwave, I normally make the coffee and brew the coffee. And then when it's brewed, I put that in. But this time I didn't do that. Yeah. This time I ended up with the coffee not poured into here. So now you get the coffee story for some reason. There's a law of the universe that we don't know what anything's for. If we think we know what something is for, then we miss these opportunities which I'm demonstrating to you now. Okay. There's a lot of confusion over centuries, millennia, on what the will of God is. Some people say the will of God is what it says you should do in the Bible, you should do that. No, you shouldn't do what it says in the Bible. What it says in the Bible is got some stuff you should do, some stuff you shouldn't do, and it's just advice to say, if you do this, you're going to have a bad experience. You're going to lose your love. And to lose your love is to find yourself in sin. You say, oh, I must have committed a sin against the law of nature, because it proves that I committed a sin, because I'm feeling miserable like Donald Trump. He obviously committed a sin, yeah, because he can't read, he has to read from a piece of paper. That's a sin, to read from a piece of paper, yeah. And so he's going to feel bad after doing that. There's all sorts of things you can do in nature that will make you feel bad. Now, I know what they all are, so I don't ever feel bad, because I know all those laws. And that's the job of the Abba, is to advise people what those laws are. You can't say don't do it, because if you tell a child don't run across the road, the first thing to do is run across the road to find out about it. Yeah, is it true, is it not true? Ah, now I see. Don't tell people what to do. Okay, now, my attention is being drawn to these two objects right then. I was completely involved, and then my attention moved to here. That's the will of God. The will of God says, pour that into there. Because it's time now here. We don't know the time of anything. We don't know the time. This video is made, I could have made this video 10, 15 years ago, but I didn't. Because the time was not right. The time for this video has come. And it's very good that this time has come. And I know its time has come because I'm making it. It can't be wrong, it's right. Everything is perfect and happening automatically, as long as it's happening automatically. And if you're telling yourself, I have to do this, I have to do that, well, it's still happening automatically, but your time has not yet come. You're still learning that. Yeah, you're still learning that. So, when a man or a lady is still learning about the will of God, they think they have their own will, because it's not time for them to learn about the will of God. What will happen now? Will I just leave the top off and carry on talking to you? No, because the coffee will get cold, right? Okay, now it's probably too hot, so it gets poured. Only that much, no more, for this time. There's no set law or pattern to anything in the universe. You have to go with the flow, go with the flow. Under here, there's a little piece of paper stuck here. I don't know what it is. I have no memory of it. There's a piece of paper. I'll take it off and I'll show you. Stuck to this book. It's just a little piece of paper. Okay. It's some kind of note. It says on it 30, 40 and 80. 30, 40 and 80. And this is the size of the cover that I was going to make. I was going to sew a cover for the outboard engine. Yeah. Now, if I had sewed that cover, whatever I did whilst I was sewing that cover, I wouldn't have been able to do. Okay. And if I was out there fixing my outboard motor, I've got to do the fuel tank. I've got to clean it out, and this is a big job. Yeah. All takes time and it needs to be done because it's going to have to sit for a week, soak in and stuff like that. Oh, maybe what will happen if I miss the if I don't do it? Then I won't be able to go down to the boat and I'll miss the opportunity to go sailing this year. The sort of thing that people tell themselves. No, you can't do that. This piece of paper has been sitting there. I didn't throw it all away, so I could tell you the story. That's why it's been there, right? Now, if it cost a lot of money to buy a cover, I would have made it. I found the cover for about £16, so I bought it. The cover's been on that engine the whole time I've been making these videos, and it needed that cover on there because it has rained from time to time. And it's best it's not sitting out there in the rain, that engine. I didn't know I was going to make all these videos. It stopped me doing everything else. Today I could have been getting stuff done that I need to do. There's lots of stuff that needs to be doing on the cars, all the stuff that I look after. Yet, I haven't been doing it because there's more important work, because the important work is the videos. Okay. So what I'm going to do is, the hand is going to do it. That's the end of that, okay? And I'll put it here together with my, and it can go in the bin when I go there. The coffee's the right temperature now. And so you're observing the will of God. I don't feel like doing anything else. I can drink coffee, I can make coffee, I can get rid of pieces of paper. All the stuff gets done. We don't need to think the world into order. The whole thing just happens automatically. And it's only when we start to study the will of God and start to decide to follow the will of God and only do that, that we really discover that the will of God looks after everything. And that there's no need to plan anything. If we plan anything, we get in our own way. Yeah. Now yesterday I planned to go out with a group, another group of motorcycles, cyclists. And I'm thinking, am I part of this group? Am I not part of this group? Is this my group? Is it not my group? Okay. And you don't want to create a new group if there's already an existing group that you belong to, yeah. Yet the aims and objectives of any group need to be the same. And so we had the Beatles. They were an organic, natural group that just formed by people who loved the same sort of music coming together, finding each other, and naturally forming a group. The Rolling Stones, the same. Yet there were two different kinds of groups. And you can't mix and match these things. You know, you're either a Rolling Stone or you're a Beatle, yeah? They're opposites, really. The one is saying, "Come here, baby," and the other one's got her on the arm already. Well, that's how it's supposed to work, but John Lennon did the dirty, so that was the end of the Beatles. You can't break the law of the individual and still keep the group. It's a tragic thing, is that you've got to master the laws of the individual first, so that you're following the will of God for you personally, and you're not breaking them all, and so you're not falling into darkness, sadness, lose your happiness, lose your peace, start thinking about the past and the future. Oh, what did I do? Oh my God, the boat isn't ready yet. All that sort of nonsense, yeah. So then you find yourself as a couple. Now there's all sorts of other things that you can do wrong, yeah. Oh, look that lady in the eye, she's a nice looking lady, and I said that to her, you know what Trump's doing with the ladies. No. Can't do that sort of nonsense. There's all sorts of couple laws that you have to understand to stay happy and contented in your coupleship. You can lose your lady very, very easily. And then there's laws of the group. So, you're Paul McCartney and Jack Bruce leaves the Cream, and they say to you, "Hey Paul, you want to come and play? We've got a concert and Jack's not with us anymore. Do you want to come and play bass for us?" Paul says, "Oh yeah man, I'd love to play bass in Cream for a bit." No, you can't do it. That's the end of it, and that's what used to happen. The greatest example of this is John Mayall's Blues Breakers. Now John Mayall was a very good light group, very great, all dedicated to playing the electric blues with a message. They were really, really a big part of the entire 60s movement. They were the heartbeat and the backbone of it, yeah. And what used to happen with John Mayall was he attracted all the right musicians, the bass player, the drummer, the guitarist and so on. And his band was forever changing, because what would happen is as they got a bit good at what they were doing, because it was a natural group, John Mayall's Blues Breakers, people naturally came together, so they were naturally given higher powers to play very well. And so when Eric Clapton joined them, he played very well, and he played so well that they were writing signs, Clapton is God. But that was probably the record company doing that, the truth be known. This is kind of like, yeah, you don't know who printed the signs that those protesters are holding. You don't know who printed those. If they weren't done in their own hand, yeah, you know what I mean. If they're not hand-painted signs, it's not a real protest, right? It's on some organisation is doing it, yeah. And all organisations of this kind are fake. Now, John Mayall's Blues Breakers was not a fake organisation. Its name, John Mayall's Blues Breakers, was a natural name. It describes what they were. They were John Mayall's group of blues breakers, because they were not only just making blues, they were breaking the mould. They were doing a special kind of blues. It was kind of like avant-garde blues, if you get my idea. And so John Mayall, Clapton is God, and now Clapton leaves John Mayall's Blues Breakers and thinks he's going to have a good time with another group. No. It was a dark period in Clapton's life. It didn't last long, and the group failed in the end. And you'll see the same thing happened with every person who ever played in John Mayall's Blues Breakers and then left. And look what happened to Mick Taylor. He ended up in the Rolling Stones. You think that was a good idea? No. He ended up as, you've got the devil himself in there, you know, Keith Richards. I said, you know what I'm talking about. And so it was a sad time for Mick Taylor. And he lost it as well. Because as you sow, so you must reap. You know, don't need to say no more. Enough said. As you sow, so shall you reap. The warmonger must die from the war. From war. Well, there's nothing coming now, so I'm going to take 5. Now you'll see what causes a person to come out of the system and escape into divine nature is the will of God. That's the only thing that can take a person out of here. You can't find your way out of there except God takes you out of there. And you'll see I've also put some roots under here. I said rooted in the will of God. This has to be all of the different people who are following the will of God come together. And it can't be done using email and all that sort of stuff. You've actually got to meet somebody on a train or something like that. That's how Mick Jagger and Keith Richards met, yeah. It has to be rooted. They both have to be following the will of God, doing what they wanted to do. Not beholden to anybody, having made no plans, so that the will of God can bring them together in the same place. I want to talk about these colours. Did you notice in the previous video that a fly came and sat here, and he sat there the whole time, because I made a video about the fly in the previous video that I made, and the fly, I said the fly wanted to be in the picture, and I thought he would find his way in the picture because he flew across here, but he flew outside the frame. But it's funny, it was a bit like a prophecy because he did end up in the picture, and so the fly showed himself. He's a YouTube star, and if I'd have not found that piece of paper over here, he was ready to jump. He was ready to jump. If I'd have missed that and not found it, he would have come and sat here, and I would have had to work out what that was about. And I would have picked this up, and I would have seen the piece of paper. So as soon as I picked the piece of paper up, you'll see he went, because his job was over. The will of God took him somewhere else. So the flies, and I saw him then, the flies are under the will of God. And if you ignore them at your peril. He's not bothering me. He's not telling me to do anything now, because I don't need to know anything. I'm doing it. Yeah, I'm doing the will of God. Now, normally, when I first started to do these kind of diagrams, I used to colour them in all beautiful. That coffee went cold. I don't feel like drinking it. Doesn't matter. Sometimes this can happen because the battery's running down. It is running down now. I'll just check. That's peculiar. The battery actually looks like it's fully charged. I can't understand that. Does energy come from nowhere? Well, the will of God is a kind of energy that comes from nowhere. It's unlimited energy, really. And I was watching Wildling Sailing yesterday. Wildling Sailing is also part of one of these groups created in this time on YouTube. Yeah. And if it wasn't for YouTube, this young man would not be able to do what he's doing. His following the will of God would have led him into an inability to do anything. Yeah. Because of YouTube, he's able to continue to look after taking 2 years to rebuild this boat that was going to sink and be lost to the world. He's brought it back from the brink. And if he'd known how bad it was when he started, he probably wouldn't have started the project. Yet he's overcome every obstacle, and God has rewarded him because now he has a wonderful sailing boat, and there's him and another man are now beginning their journey to travel south into warmer climates to get this boat into a better place by the time winter comes. Yeah, and it looks beautiful. Its sails are beautiful and it's sailing lovely, and hopefully it doesn't have to be hopefully. He's going to, as long as he follows the will of God, he'll find himself in the place where he belongs. He'll find himself out of the storm in a nice harbour at some point. And if he fails to follow the will of God, he'll find himself in the storm. Yeah. Well, he might find himself in the storm anyway, because he might need a little bit of a storm to test him. Yeah, he might need to be in the storm for a while. Yet he will always be rescued if the going gets tough by the will of God. Now, at some point you do this stuff yourself. You do. I used to colour these things in completely. It's hard work. It takes time. It's a lot of work. And when you become a master, a doctor of this stuff, because it's a doctor of philosophy who brings in a new kind of philosophy into the world. That's a doctor. That's to actually doctor the existing art, to carry the will of God into greater evolution. You know? When you start to do that, when you become a doctor, no longer do you need to colour it in. Yeah? What happens is God is supposed to send you a young apprentice, and then the young apprentice colours it in. There's no apprentice here. And it's not time for me to have an apprentice. And so I just leave the colour stuff out. Yeah. And it's very effective because only the very, very important stuff gets coloured in, which is good also. As I coloured them in, I would add all sorts of extra detail and they would become more complex. Yet that became the job, would have been the job of the apprentice, if you like. And this is what the painters used to do, the master painters. They would do the line of the picture and then the apprentices would come in and actually paint onto it, the colour onto it with the brush. And in doing so, they would study the line, the outline that the master had made. They'd study the line of the master. And they would get better and better at painting because you need to do a lot of painting to get good at it. You know? And the master didn't need to do that. He didn't need to get any better at his painting. He'd done enough painting, and his main purpose was to bring form into the universe, the new, to bring the new. And he could make more paintings that way. I can make more videos if I don't colour them in. There's a time for videos and there's a time for something else. And the time for something else is coming. I don't even hope for it. I'm happy to do whatever God wants me to do. If I have to sit here and make videos forever, I'll do it. Yesterday I went for a ride on my motorcycle. And I didn't enjoy the first half because the people I was with were travelling too fast. And I was having to push my poor motorcycle harder than it wanted to go. It didn't want to go that hard. And so on the way back, I didn't even have to do it. The guy I was with said, "Do you want to go ahead and we'll catch you up?" So I went ahead. I thought, they're never going to catch me up because I'm ahead of them and it takes a long time. And then I saw another road and I thought, I'd rather go that way than straight. And the will of God said, "Turn down there, go up there." I didn't think, well, what about the people following me? They're all grown-ups. They're all adults. They can find their way home. They don't need me as part of their group if I'm meant to be somewhere else, if it's time for me to do something else. And I turned off. As soon as I turned off, I felt much better. I felt that I was on a nicer road, and I really enjoyed it. I had ended up on a smaller road, and travelling slower, and the road took me in all sorts of nice ways and got me home in a really great way, whereas they were following a plan. They knew that they were going to go down this road in a long certain way. They knew it in advance. Whereas I prefer to travel just freely and say, that way, that way, that way. Turn off the GPS. Find out where you end up. And you find yourself in a better place that way, because that's the law of the universe. If you make a plan, you've got to miss out on the best bits. And I think video is long enough now. And that's a good summary. If you make a plan, you miss out on the best bits. And these are the ultimate plans of man, to actually organize society into some rigid structure with laws and all that sort of stuff. And we can see that it just becomes more and more and more rigid until the whole thing is an arse. It's just an arse. And the two sides are the same arse too. And the church is not the church. I am the church. You are the church. We are the church. The order of poets, bards and druids is the church, but also the church is the arts and crafts people who are still making a little money to survive. It's also the church. And the church is really the world. It should be. Yet the fallen world order has taken its place and organised itself into a government. Yeah? And it's really the church that should govern the people. God should govern the people. The will of God should govern the people. And the highest exponents of the will of God are the order of poets, bards and druids. And the highest druid in the nation is the one who should appoint the king. And I don't see anybody else at my level in this nation. I don't see anybody producing the wisdom at the level that I'm doing. So I must be the highest abbot, if you like, in the nation. And so I would like to appoint George Galloway as our leader, our king, at this moment in time. And if somebody better comes along, then, well, I'm sure George will sit down and let him take over. As I would do, if I found another abbot, if I found a wiser person, I'd say, hey, go for it, you know, I'll listen to your wisdom and improve. And so George is our king. That's who George is. George is our king. And he's doing a good job of it too. And Starmer is the devil himself. He's taken George's job. He's taken King Charles's job. Charles isn't the king. He's not doing the job. He's not in the position. God hasn't appointed him. Because he's got to be appointed by the highest abbot in the nation. And I'm sorry, those people who appointed him, they're very, very less wise than this person in front of the camera. They don't have YouTube channels either, so they can't be part of the way forward. Everybody who is part of this way forward, the evolved nation, is on YouTube. Okay, Wildling Sailing is part of it. He's on YouTube. And you can see that YouTube has just evolved naturally. And all the legacy media is finished. If you've got a TV channel, you're a criminal. And if you're not on YouTube, well, you're nothing. And you know, Daddy said, that Tucker Carlson is nobody because he hasn't got a TV channel. Well, I'm sorry, Diddy, you're wrong. Tucker Carlson is part and parcel of the way forward, and should also be the king of America, not you, Diddy. And so, can I appoint Tucker Carlson? God says, say yes. Say yes. I have to say yes. Yes, I can appoint Tucker Carlson. Should I appoint Tucker Carlson? Trump is finished. Tucker Carlson is a good man. The only requirement for kingship is virtue. It's not time yet. That's good. Okay, we are finished. We are finished. I think this is the last video. I can't imagine it can get any higher than this, the overview. And I've been thinking that for the last 10 videos, and so there you go. And the only form of evolution is to the Garden of Eden, the tree of knowledge. Which is really understanding. And when we understand everything, to understand means to stand under. To stand under. When we understand God, when we stand under God and obey the will of God, we will find ourselves evolved back into the Garden of Eden. Yet at a higher level, we have all this science that if we use it with understanding and consideration and under the will of God, then it won't destroy the world. I'll play that song again. Thanks for watching.